Hi, welcome to another exciting episode of the Andre the Beast Creighton Show. Another exciting show, definitely another exciting guest. Today, we're going to talk with a young lady named Jessica MacLean. And let me tell you where we're going with this. We're going to talk about this word called ableism. And for those that don't understand how impactful this word is, it's a form of discrimination against people with chronic illnesses
Mm-hmm.
or disability. This
Mm-hmm.
young lady has basically dealt with this all of her life. If I've ever interviewed anybody who has more chronic illnesses, it's definitely Jessica. And she had to come on the show because it's interesting how she keeps that beast mindset with so much adversity that she has to deal with every day. But more importantly, the fact that she's the first person that I've come in contact with that's been openly boisterous about dealing with ableism. Let's welcome to the show, Jessica. Jessica, how we doing, baby girl?
How are you today? It's great to be here. I'm okay.
I'm doing fine. Today is National Chronic
Mm-hmm.
Mental or Illness Month.
Uh-huh.
Did I get that
Yeah.
right?
Yeah, the mental isn't in there, but technically a lot of mental conditions are chronic. So yeah, that applies as well.
Let's get right down to it. We got 30 minutes, so we're going to get deep. Tell the viewers a little bit about you. I know you're in beautiful Arizona. I saw the deers coming in your front yard, and you know, I know there's snakes out there, so we won't talk about the rattlesnakes. well, well, what's it like growing up where you at, and how did you get there? Tell me a little bit about who you are.
That's hilarious. So my grandma always said to watch for snakes. So it's funny that you say that. And growing up in Arizona, that I grew up real wild, kind of. My grandparents built cabins in the Bradshaws in the mountains, and so I grew up going up there riding dirt bikes when I was a lot healthier. I still had disabilities or illnesses here and there. I had like migraines or knee problems or surgeries I needed or different things, but it wasn't like it is now. I grew up going to like Lake Powell and water skiing and on houseboats. So it was just real adventurous, visiting a ranch, a real remote ranch in Arizona, and kind of cliche things, really. But I also kind of grew up in the suburbs.
Now you come from heritage. Let's go deeper. Miss
Yeah. So
Arizona. Your great grandmother?
my great grandma, yeah.
Yeah, Miss Arizona and
Oh, that was my grandma.
your
So
grandma.
yeah, it's so extensive that well, here's the back of my book, I guess. There's Mrs. Arizona.
Wow.
And there's the Harvey girl that was my great grandma who took, well, her husband took mules down to the bottom of the Grand Canyon and his brothers. And she was a historic Harvey girl. They worked along the railroad and they were like 1,000 women. They were kind of historical figures. So it's super fascinating. Had to be tough but independent. They had to be single.
Wow. So when you hear the Harvey girl and the Harvey girls in
Mhm.
Arizona, it don't sound too attractive. Like was it a like a prostitution house? I mean, what is that?
Right.
What's the
No,
Harvey?
they were waitresses, and there was all these restaurants along the railroad line that Fred Harvey created because there was no good service and no good food along the railroad. And so he saw that as a need and met it, and he became one of the biggest businessmen in the world. And they had to be like tough. They had to dress really conservatively. Um, they had to be single, which is interesting, and really hardworking, capable, adventurous. They were the first time really leaving their home independently, and they would go several states over to work somewhere else. So it was kind of an interesting time for these women.
I can't even imagine taking mules 12 feet below a canyon.
12 miles, yeah.
Yeah, 12 miles. Yeah, that's
Straight
there's
down.
no trails, and you're going straight down. I know
Mhm.
they probably share some great stories with you, or you found some great stories. But what was most impactful with your family's genealogy that you found?
Um, I think like some of the things that I found that they wrote were the most impactful. I found several documents that were written by my relatives. And then I would take those and incorporate into the book, kind of like a literary review, maybe written those in college. And so the most fascinating part was like hearing their words directly and maybe their advice, like having strength in adversity in trials, and just little tidbits of things that they left. That was the most, it felt like I was connected to them. And then my grandpa was struck and killed by a train when my dad was 6, and I never got to meet him. And it felt like I knew him, and like I was a lot like him once I learned about him.
When you talk about your family tree in Arizona, it seems like it's deeply rooted in one specific part of Arizona. Was your family scattered throughout the Arizona region? Because when you talk about Arizona,
Mhm.
you talk about like
Mhm.
Phoenix, Tucson,
Yeah.
uh, those areas. You don't really hear about the little remote areas that you live
Mhm.
in. How widespread was your family's legacy in the Arizona territory?
Pretty widespread. From Williams, they were ranchers. We had our own brand, which is in the book. Here's the front of my book, by the way. Um, and they were working at the Grand Canyon. They were working in Winslow because it was like a railroad hub, a big railroad hub, and they were in Prescott here in the mountains, and then they were in Phoenix building homes and churches and being pastors and all sorts of stuff. So really kind of spread out, but that's more central Arizona, I would say, than there's eastern and western. Arizona's kind of a big state, so.
I'm pretty sure the stories in your book also deals with, which we're going to talk about this in your own life, discrimination. This is probably during the time of Reconstruction of America where everybody was migrating to the West. And in order to really get to that territory, the Grand Canyon opened up uh, a lot of new explorations for people migrating to those
Yeah.
areas. And you had different immigrants. Does your book talk about your parents or your grandparents encounter with other nationalities?
Not a whole lot. There's like a photo of them with some Native Americans at the Grand Canyon, but there's not a whole lot of that because it was so niche and specific, and like it was so difficult to draw out a lot of details, if that makes sense. Because it was just like piecing their words, pictures, historical facts. But no, unfortunately, there's not a lot of diversity as far as, like other races or cultures or things like that. It's just sort of, I'm come from like a European and Scandinavian descent, and so that's sort of the people in the story, because it's a lot of I have a really big family, so most of the people in the story are family members.
What
I don't
made you
even know if I have any examples in there of like them interacting with other races, really, or if I have any. I didn't have anything of that to draw from, if that makes sense. I think in there I did mention like the Native Americans, and I tried to say like positive things about the Native Americans coming from the person's perspective, the family member's perspective at the time. So I sort of tried to put that in there, but I had to draw it out of history, if that makes sense.
what kind of feedback have you been getting from not only the people in Arizona, but the few people that you did showcase, like the Native Americans?
Hmm. Well, so I found a red-tailed hawk feather a while back, a big primary one, and then the next day I stumbled upon this Native American book club, and I looked up red-tailed hawk and Native American, and it was my astrological sign. And since then, I found about like 150 feathers. So I haven't necessarily, I mean, I've had some interactions with those types of things, book clubs and teachings, but a lot of times it's been like spiritual confirmations that I see that are kind of interesting. And
Let's go here. Let's talk about this word, ableism.
Mhm.
How did Let's go back. We're gonna talk about this word, but let's go back to all of these chronic illnesses that you unfortunately wind up getting. When did these symptoms start to show itself, and how did it progress to the point to where it is now?
So when I was a girl, I had frequent bronchitis. I had ear infections as a baby. I had to have tubes in my ears. I had to have my tonsils out. I had migraines, my first migraine when I was 7 years old, and I vomited from it. And then I had Osgood-Schlatter syndrome, and my kneecap was off track. Osgood-Schlatters is a knee syndrome in youth. And so I had to be in physical therapy at 12 years old for 2 knee problems. And, it just kind of progressed from there. I had TMJ by the time I was in my teens or whatever. I had, which is a jaw thing. It just kind of continued. And I got an autoimmune condition at like 17, SIBO psoriasis. And it's literally just been like that. Like in my adulthood, it's gotten worse. I have arthritis in my neck. I have osteoarthritis in both knees. I have psoriatic arthritis now that's developing. And I have 5 lower back conditions because I was born with spina bifida as well. Spina bifida occulta, which means hidden. My spine never finished forming. There was like a gap. So now I have like 2 kinds of paralysis, technically. I'm not paralyzed, but, I have symptoms here and there that vary. So it's been really challenging. It's kind of traumatizing. And so I have something called chronic illness PTSD and medical PTSD from medical trauma. So that's very real because you can't escape your body. So, and then ableism is like people telling you should do something like, well, it would be good for you to do squats. It's the best thing you can do. It would be good for you to do a cold plunge. It's the best thing you can do. Oh yeah, I could probably kill me with my heart. I've done it a few times, but those types of things, I can't do squats. I have physical therapy that I do that accommodates my back and stuff. And so ableism could be somebody wanting inspiration from a disabled person. And it's called inspiration porn. And so immediately, if you see a disabled person, you either want, you expect them to sort of give like a speech that's inspirational and like catered to able-bodied people, if that makes sense. So the message that disabled people want to give is not catered to able-bodied people. We want to express ourselves in our own way and, be truthful. And so it's very multifaceted, ableism. People who don't hear the word, I got discriminated against recently for housing. I was denied, and she put it in writing that it was because of my health. I have an 850 credit score, perfect, and savings, and she still denied me based on my health. So I'm working with the Attorney General to try to fight that. I've been trying to date, and like one guy posted a joke about disabled people when he was trying to pursue me, like very cruel joke. And so it's just like accepted in society where this last group.
What was a cruel joke?
It was after a certain age, dating is like trying to find parking. You just pull into a disabled one after a while and hope nobody notices.
Wow.
While he was pursuing me, he posted that on Facebook and we were like Facebook friends. And so that's what I face almost every day. Like I was out to dinner and this lady said, I was out to dinner with the prospective landlord and his tenant. And she said, I carry cushions with me. And she said, yeah, the seats outside here are really hard. I've thought about bringing cushions, but I would have been embarrassed, she said. And so people just say these things all day long, every day to people like me. They treat us poorly. They don't include us. It's like a whole movement that really needs to take root in society.
But how many people do you come in contact with that even have the indication that you have a form of disability? Because to look at you, I know that sounds crazy because when you hear that, you are looking for a sign about somebody. I don't expect somebody with a disabled something to have something around their neck, but to avoid that conflict, how do you let people know what you're dealing with without really giving out your information so they don't treat you a certain way, or maybe they can think before they speak?
Yeah, that's a challenge for sure. And they call those invisible or hidden disabilities or illnesses. And they're very common. My mom was kind of the same way, but my mom was 59 when she passed and she was bedridden and her autopsy was mostly inconclusive. And so, you can't see a lot of things. An EDS is probably one of the top invisible illnesses because our skin is even like soft is one of the things on the diagnostic criteria. Like there's so many weird things with it that we actually can look exceptionally healthy and be the opposite.
For the
And so it's
viewers,
really a movement of like, you don't know. You can't judge a book by its cover. And sometimes I do advocate for myself. I tell people about my illnesses, or I carry my cushions, or and people often will get pushed away by too much awareness on your part as a sick person.
for the viewers who may not know, what is EDS?
Oh yeah, it's Ehlers-Danlos syndrome, and it's a tissue connectivity disorder that affects every system in the body. There's 13 systems in the body, like organs, nervous system, bones, skin, eyes, those types of things, and it affects every single system. And it's like our connective tissue is loose. Sometimes they compare it to like bubble gum compared to like joints, proper joints. They'll compare it Elmer's glue to like a hot glue gun. A healthy person is put together with a hot glue gun, and we're put together with Elmer's glue, those types of comparisons. We're hypermobile, a lot of us. That's one of the types of EDS. And it's a lot of contortionists, dancers, gymnasts. And then they'll end up having serious problems later in life.
What do you mean, like serious problems?
Like me with with arthritis in the joints or whatever, because they've pushed their body, these contortionists or whatever have pushed their body to levels that they shouldn't be doing. Just because they can do it doesn't mean it's healthy for the human body to do. So
Right.
damage occurs. And then really damage occurs just because our joints don't work properly, even when we're walking or jumping or doing things.
So let's go here with so many chronic illnesses that you're dealing with. This
Mm-hmm.
also comes with chronic pain management. How are you able to manage your pain, like, you know, with all of these illnesses? Because doctors are quick to prescribe different medications such as gabapentin and other things when, especially if it's more neurological. But how
Mm-hmm.
do you deal with a multitude of different chronic illnesses that you deal with? What's your coping mechanisms? How do you deal with managing your pain?
Well, I was given my first prescription medication when I was like 14, and then I continued to get prescriptions. But then I figured out that marijuana got rid of my migraines that they were giving me the prescriptions for. And then as my pain got worse, I figured out that it worked for that too. And it worked for sleeping, and it worked for, you know, PTSD, and it worked for brain injury, and it worked for everything. And so, yeah, I pretty much use cannabis, edibles, and smoking it, and more natural. I don't use like a vape pen or anything like that. And so, and then hot tubs have been real helpful, massage, that kind of stuff. Having the proper furniture is huge. Resting when you need to, not pushing yourself, but more natural things.
Now, how long is marijuana legal in Arizona?
Yeah, it's legal medically and recreationally. Hmm.
Was it legal before you was diagnosed? And if it wasn't, how was you able to navigate? I guess you just stuck with the medicine that the doctors gave you at that time.
Oh, certainly not. No, no, it's been legal for quite a while, but before it was legal, I still used it illegally and took the risk. And so I was a part of something called the Marijuana Policy Project. And I went to a party at the Playboy Mansion there years ago, um, for a charity event. So, it's really important to be an advocate. No, I'm just kidding. Um, so that was, I had heard stories of people being arrested for treating their cancer with marijuana or whatever. And I'm like, no, that's not okay. So that policy just has to change, obviously. And some of us weren't going to wait for that to happen.
You talk about policies being changed and stuff. I'm a firm believer in changing policies for the better good of humanity. Um, with guidelines, I always believe that you can't always give the good without understanding what the bad risks are and how do we adjust both of them. Nothing is a perfect system, but I'm 100% with advocating for things that's going to better humanity. With that being said, what are some of the how are you being treated as a you know a voice for what you're dealing with and what others are dealing with?
So I've been interviewed on a few different shows. I was just interviewed something called, not just, but a while back, something called Disability Empowerment Now. I've been interviewed on a chronic coping or Chronic Pain Partners website. My YouTube is called Chronic Coping. I haven't been on there a whole lot. And I've been interviewed by I wrote for the Christopher and Dana Reeve Foundation, a couple of blogs, and then Disability Empower. And so, yeah, I've kind of used my voice in the community to advocate, certainly, and my, experience writing and all of that. So I've been a writer for a long time.
What has been the most difficult challenge so far for you?
Um, like suffering, I think, is the biggest challenge. The the suffering of like the conditions, the different, pain or whatever. Some conditions I'll get dizzy or whatever. I've fainted before, or you get tired. I'm chemically sensitive. So I would say the chemical sensitivity has probably been the hardest, but the combined suffering.
Explain chemical sensitivity to the viewer.
So that developed within the past few years or so, and I lost like 50 pounds. Um, it was like from some chemicals, from building chemicals that continued to go nearby. And I'm real sensitive. I started spitting up blood. I was like, I would get a really funny taste in my mouth. And then after a few years, it developed into like a headache, and like stomach symptoms. And now I don't have an appetite, and I haven't for about a year almost, related to the chemical stuff. So, I guess what people should know about that is like if you wear perfume or cologne or you use air fresheners or all these different scented things, those are chemicals too. And it's toxic, literal poison. If you look at the ingredients, it'll be like formaldehyde and stuff. I mean, it's like it, the whole system and industry is just, there needs to be awareness around that. Like how food has become, we've become aware of chemicals in our food, and now we need to become aware of all the chemicals in the air that are causing cancers for people. And just because I'm a canary in the coal mine, is what they call chemical sensitivity people, doesn't mean that I should be shut down. Obviously, I should be acknowledged as that canary in the coal mine and appreciated, as a resource.
I'm trying to think, how do you get diagnosed with something that's almost airborne?
Yeah, it's hard to figure out. It's like the exposure and the reaction to that exposure, and it's so strong and pointed. And then when you end up in the hospital vomiting until you need an IV, you need potassium. That happened to me. I needed potassium. I couldn't walk because I had been vomiting so much, and an IV. And they they'll kind of figure it out. Like the natural path will figure it out, the doctors sometimes, but it's not always easy. Sometimes you have to figure it out for yourself and kind of mention that to the doctors, and then they're like, oh yeah, okay, that's what's going on.
But
But you feel it in your own body.
it's almost like with all of the things that you're dealing with, and now the chemical arrow, the stuff that's in the air, it
Yeah.
almost sounds like, and don't take this cruel, it almost
Hmm.
sounds like you have to contain yourself in a glass, in a bubble, like the
So
Jerry Seinfeld thing. You know what I mean?
that is so funny because my mom loves Seinfeld, and she used to say that about herself. And I have heard people say that, and I mentioned it to my doctor once, and he was like, no, we're not putting you in a bubble yet. So yeah, I kind of try to do that. I try to leave when I need fresh air. Um, I try to be real clean in my own home without using chemicals. So yeah, it's tough, but you kind of have to make the best of it if you can. I mean, obviously, I have terrible days where I have to feel that.
So I would also think, with this multitude of illnesses, that even vibrational frequencies will do its toll on you. Meaning concerts, being around a lot of people, with
Hmm.
noise. I mean, with all of these different things going through your body, how do you react
Hmm.
in with going around people in general, like going to a concert or going to a party or just hanging out in general? How were you
Well, it
socially?
depends. It really depends. So, I wasn't really involved in the Prescott live music scene for a while, and I'm kind of looking into singing a little here and there with some musicians and practicing. But if it's too loud, like you're saying, yeah, like at a big concert, or if they turn it too loud, I'll need earplugs or I won't go. Um, a lot of the things I go to are like smaller acoustic things where the music is real quiet and it's actually therapeutic. And then, yeah, you feel the vibes, you let the vibes flow through you. I'll dance a little bit if I can. And yeah, you try to get that like therapy of somatic release and then music therapy to cheer you up.
Now, I thought that was kind of funny. I didn't want to laugh when you said when I can dance. If you look at your social media, every picture you're dancing.
Sort
So,
of.
so
Sort of.
how important is that for your therapeutic? I take it. I tell people social media usually tells you a lot about what somebody's life is like. You have a
Mm.
lot of dancing activity going on. Is that part of your therapeutic treatment, or is that part of the pain management, or a combination of both?
It's both, but it's also spiritual and it's just what you were saying about frequencies. I just sort of will feel the music sometimes and I'll start to dance. Sometimes I'll be sitting even, or all my knees will be sore after I dance if I do it a certain way, or um so I have to be real careful, but I've danced most of my life, and so it's something I want to do as much as I can in whatever way I can. A lot of women with EDS will dance with a wheelchair, for example, and they'll get up and down and they'll make their own choreography and stuff. So I haven't gotten a wheelchair yet. I probably should have by now, but I don't know. I'm trying to maintain what I can, and it's kind of complicated, and they're expensive custom wheelchairs. It's a lot.
Now, why would you need a wheelchair at this point? Like, how bad is it that you are considering a wheelchair?
Well, a lot of times,
What's the benefits of having a wheelchair now? Because clearly you're dancing, you're moving, you're mobile. What's going to be the
sort of.
advantage and disadvantage?
It's like the freedom. A lot of people with EDS or similar conditions to mine will say it's the freedom that it allows you. Now I have to limit how much I'm out. I can't walk a whole lot. I can't walk very far. I can't walk uphill. Um, I go out and I bring my own cushions, and then the seats won't work sometimes, and I'll end up, my back will be killing me, or um, my knees, like I have arthritis and the EDS, and so my knees will actually fall out of the sockets if I walk too much, and you feel it. I actually feel it falling out, and that's like a massive amount of damage when that's happening. So a lot of people with EDS have canes, walkers, and multiple wheelchairs, and so it's just, even though we're not fully paralyzed, it's like a need or an assistance.
You mentioned your core, your spine, your core. How often are you inside of a almost like a spine protective garment to help stabilize you when even the cushion isn't aligning because your back isn't aligned? So you are you wearing a almost like a flight jacket to keep your core
No,
aligned?
there are things that people with EDS wear that are like these funny full body things,
Yeah,
and I haven't gotten them. I get uncomfortable in really tight things, so no, the no back braces have really helped me. I used to wear a knee brace on my bad knee when I was younger, and then even into adulthood when I had some issues with it. But right now, I mean, a lot of people with EDS wear these braces on their fingers. Um, they're kind of helping keep the joints in place. And then, so technically, I could have like a thing on each joint, and I could have multiple mobility assistance devices and all these things. But I'm trying to like let my body find its own strength too sometimes, and be natural.
let's go here. What about your family? Are you um, how are they with dealing with what you're dealing with? Because it sounds like you have a lot of stuff going on that it can be overwhelming to not only friends but family members as well.
Yeah, so I've lost a lot of people, and I've lost a lot of friendships and relationships. My family has not been particularly supportive of me, or um, anything like that. I have some newer friends now that are a lot more supportive of me, But a lot of people like me lose people. It's just kind of what happens because it's too much. It's like overwhelming for people, or they don't believe you, or they don't want to listen, or you tell them the same thing 100 times, or they're stuck in this really unhealthy way of viewing you, maybe related to ableism or who they think you are, or it's a big challenge.
Now, have I hate to use this word. Do a lot of do some of the people that come in contact with when you explain all of these different uh, chronic illnesses, do they label it as a hypochondriac?
Absolutely. Yeah. So there's parents with children who have EDS, and the parents can get their children taken from them and say, the police or the authorities will say that they have Munchausen syndrome. When I was a girl, my parents got asked questions by CPS asking if they were abusing me. So it's definitely a thing, and people will certainly judge you as a self-preservation mechanism. Um, and yeah, of course, it's a lot easier to call somebody a hypochondriac than to try to understand, why somebody with EDS next to me is on a feeding tube, or why one of my friends with EDS had a stroke. And so it's really easy to pass judgment.
For the viewers who don't know, what you call it, Munchausen syndrome?
Munchausen, it's a hypochondriac, exactly what you just said.
Okay.
And yeah, I mean, yeah, it messes with your head after a while to be so sick, and you do start to worry and get paranoid about things, but that's a normal human reaction to what's going on in reality with your body.
I try to understand why would your parents and your family members not be close to you when you're having so many complications. Could you clear that up for me a little bit? Or is that too personal?
Well, it might be a little personal. I don't know. When I was born, I was told I interrupted the basketball game that was on. So I don't know. I can't tell you why some people are treated poorly in the family from birth and not given that same level of like humanity as others, and why people can't look and say, hey, you're going through a lot. We should probably go out of our way to be supportive and understanding and empathetic and loving. And that doesn't happen. It just doesn't happen. People think it happens when you're sick, that you're getting all this assistance and help and resources and wheelchairs and disabilities and all these things. It's not how it is. It's ostracizing often, and shunning and judgmental and cruel. My family tried to have me put in the mental hospital a while ago, and I was released in less than 24 hours, and none of my medical conditions were like accommodated or even really believed. I was put in handcuffs at a massage appointment and taken into custody and I had no drugs. They tried to drug test me and all this stuff. And I was next to people that had their arms cut up and their necks cut up, people withdrawing from drugs, jumping up, flailing around, right, literally guys right next to me. So no, we're not treated right. We're treated like criminals, or like we've done something wrong.
How did your parents? Who called the authority on you to have you mentally
Mm-hmm.
capacitated? Who?
My dad.
How can he do that? You're a grown woman.
Yeah, it was because of some statements I made that I shouldn't have made to him, but um, I've never self-harmed. And of course, it's natural for somebody in my situation to have suicidal thoughts. I was struggling to survive with chemical poisoning, and he wasn't willing to support me. So that was what the option was, I suppose, was to have me. And then he called the mental place afterwards and told them I was talking about suing them. So it's just like completely undercutting me on every turn. And it's been a year since I've seen him. And so, there's no trust there. And it makes everything so much harder. And it shouldn't be, it should be loving.
You mean the police and the prosecutor and the people at the mental place didn't give you no reason for holding you under confinement? It was based on somebody's allegation about you?
Yeah, they showed up. A crisis worker showed up here with my dad, and I was on the way to my massage appointment, and they were blocking my car. And I said, get off my property. I have to go. And then they showed up at the place and had me put in handcuffs leaving my massage appointment. I mean, what a threat am I to people trying to get a massage? It's absurd. And so I could have sued, but I could sue everybody. I mean, all Prescott, there's no elevators anywhere anyway. It's just endless.
How is your overall mental condition
Um,
right now?
Not amazing. I try, and I've guided meditations. I've won poetry slams. I wrote a book. I sing karaoke. I go to the forest. I had a fawn that hung out with me for a month and a half, a baby deer, and just kept coming back every day. And the mom would feed it, and it did zoomies around me. And so that kind of stuff, it's almost like God knows that I needed stuff, and He will bring me these things, and it will like save me. It's incredible. And I mean, literally a month and a half, this little spotted baby fawn hung out with me. And so right now it's not great. Like I'm kind of like anxious, and my nervous system is needing like a serious reset, and I'm needing some peace to recover and to like knock down some of this PTSD that's, you know, racking me.
What do we need to change? You mentioned something about you're fighting to change the way society views individuals, uh, just with disability functions and
Yeah,
remove the
that's
term
huge.
ableism. What what
Mhm.
what needs to change in your opinion?
Um, Everything. It's so ableism is really the next movement, I believe, in equality and equity and awareness. And it really needs to be a whole movement in society where people start to become aware of illnesses and they start to treat people better. And there's like not an acceptance around this, where it's okay for people to treat someone like me the way that I've been treated. And it's much more than I've even told you. So I think it's just going to be a gradual thing that happens.
Outside of your family and the friends that walked away from you, how do you really how do you create a tribe, so to speak? Because you don't
Mm.
want to walk around with name tags all over you. Well, I'm suffering from this, that, and another. They're gonna really look at you like, what, like what the hell. But the ideal is how do you create a safe environment and still keep yourself safe? Is what I'm saying.
Absolutely. Yeah. I don't really know. Can you ask that again? I'm not sure I know how to answer that.
Like your family, your dad did what he
Oh, a
did.
tribe. You said a
Yeah,
tribe,
yeah,
right?
yeah, yeah. Like how do
Yes.
you
Okay.
create
So
something different?
I'm seeing someone who is pretty accepting of me. It's very casual, and then a new, and then my best friend. She has chemical sensitivities, very mild, and mold sensitivities like me. And then she believes me, and she's like, we are so much alike. It's just incredible. We sing guitar. She'll play the guitar, and we'll sing, or all sorts of stuff. I gave her my mom's old records. So there are people. I've got some musician friends who are wonderful. So it's just like a really slow thing. And sometimes it's like really having to be brutal about cutting ties with people and really feeling that grief.
Hmm. You know what? Such a great story of that beast mindset. I mean, we've had hundreds and thousands of people on the show um, telling
Mm.
us how they keep their beast mindset. You are definitely one of those individuals. Um,
Oh, thank you.
what's the end game for you?
Oh, gosh. I feel like it's survival, but it's also developing and learning. And I've always said I used the problems and the hardships as a funnel to guide me to like my purpose or to good things. And so I guess that's it. Being somewhat heroic, standing up to bullies, advocating for environmental things because I'm such a naturalist. And, um, I don't really know. A lot of it, when you're a creative type, a lot of times you kind of fly by the seat of your pants and you don't necessarily, you do creative things as you go and you don't necessarily know. And when you're intuitive and you have all these weird things happen, you just have to let God decide for you.
My last question.
Mm-hmm.
You're a college grad. You're
Mm-hmm.
an author, wrote a book. What do you think your ancestors would say about all that you're going through now? Should you write a book about it? Somebody speaking from the grave right now to you?
Absolutely. Yeah. You better believe it. I've had some weird stuff happen. Doorbells ringing. I mean, pictures falling and coming up without the glass didn't break. I mean, I can't even tell you. And yeah, I think my ancestors are protecting me and I think they see the truth. Absolutely. They're totally there. Sometimes I feel their comfort, and then writing their story, I just escaped into it. So yeah, I don't know. I don't really know exactly what's going on in the spiritual realm, but I certainly know I've had a lot of dreams about them and I've had a lot of dreams come true. And I don't know.
What do you want to see happen in your life versus what's going on now? You got so many beautiful things going on, but what's the one thing that you want to see really take a change?
Peace, just peace, and finding that peace and feeling it and getting back to that frame of mind instead of kind of in the trauma mindset.
That sounds like a winner. Jessica, how can the viewers reach you and get a copy of that book to know more about your ancestry? And if they have questions about same similarities as what you're going through, how can they reach out to you?
Well, I'm on Facebook and I'm under Jessica Lynn MacLean. My last name is MacLean. And then Arizona Rain is for sale on Barnes and Noble, and you can just search for Arizona Rain there. I'm on TikTok under Bambi Girl, and that's just sort of like a coping body positivity page, whatever I feel like, whatever I want. Obviously, I cater to a certain audience, but it's to cheer myself up and cheer others up.
Okay, ladies and gentlemen, make sure you subscribe, like, follow, click that button.
Yeah.
All it is just one click to make a difference in your life or change somebody else's. Jessica, thank you so much. I'm going to have you come back, keep us updated with how you're doing with your treatment and making a difference in representing the word ableism. Ladies and gentlemen, this has been another, and I do mean another, exciting episode of the Andre the Beast Creighton Show. Andre the Beast. Oh.